from Be Wise Gardens, and today I would like to talk about some essentials in the garden, things that I cannot garden without, or that I can but I prefer not to because they're really helpful and really useful for my time, for my enjoyment in the garden, anything like that. So some of them are tools, and then some of them are just aspects of the garden and of gardening. So first let's start with like the tools and kind of that area of maintenance in the garden. First off, I love a cart or a wheelbarrow or a 5-gallon bucket, anything that you can cart around, especially one that rolls. One that rolls is really nice for harvesting, for debris, for carrying plants around to a specific location. This one's great. This is called a Mighty Max cart. This little thing comes off of it. Like I said, it rolls, so it's really easy to use that way. It's not the best for material, like gravel or bark or whatever. I prefer a wheelbarrow for that. But this one is super versatile otherwise. You can lift the bucket off, but it needs to be sort of like a light material to be able to carry that around, dump it out, and all that. So, other than that, just a trusty 5-gallon bucket to be able to like take clippings, prune off, deadheading, small items that I need to transfer to some other larger container like the compost or the trash can, whatever it is.
Also
and,
weeding.
Yeah, totally. Weeding is, how could I forget weeding? This is my other favorite thing for, transporting that material. Usually it takes, depending on how heavy your material is, it can take 2 people to carry this to a trailer. It can, to take to the landfill or wherever you go if you compost this material. But it's really easy to use. Sometimes I can lift it myself if it's super light.
Or drag it.
That's true. But what you can do is you can tie this corner to that corner, just really loose, kind of lazy, or loose. And then this corner to that corner kind of creates like a little wonton, and you can move it from there.
A debris wonton! That's a new thing.
Anyway, so other favorite thing is some tools. We've talked about these before, but I will review them again just because I really like each one of these and use them on a daily basis, at least a weekly basis. So Hori knife or gardening knife. You can also use a small hand trowel if you need to. These are usually sharper than hand trowels, and sometimes you can chop off big chunky roots of something, or pop out those tough dandelions.
And stronger for like prying.
Yes,
Trowels
exactly.
tend to bend if you poke them in and like yank, put any kind of leverage on them.
Exactly.
Yes, there is a lawnmower that is happening behind us.
Let's move this way.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's the way it is. Life.
That's true. So the other thing is this little holster. I like to just stick these on my belt, stick these on my pocket, whatever. It keeps all the tools in one place. I can usually fit 2 things in here, which is nice. Pruners, bypass pruners. So if you look at them, it's got this thick edge that's not sharp, and then the sharp blade, and that's the bypass pruner part of it. Usually these can go up to about 1 inch. But half an inch is much easier. Anyway, I use this for everything.
Keep them sharp.
Yeah, exactly. Sharper will save you a headache.
Because otherwise they like pinch to the very end, and then you have a tendency to tear your bark or tear your, the outside of your plant.
Anything.
Right.
Yep, totally. So yeah, sharp tools are always gonna save you headaches, save you time, anything like that. Other thing is a pruning saw. This is just a small hand folding pruning saw. We have fruit trees, so this is super handy for that.
She's looking at them.
All those fruit trees over there. Or even some hardier, some shrubbier material, like shrubs. Anyway, these are super easy because when you use them, the teeth are designed that when you pull back, that's the motion that cuts. So it's usually really, really effortless. You don't have to push down on it. It's meant for trees and shrubs.
Harder woods.
Yeah, exactly. And it's small and compactable, and it's really for small projects. Obviously, if I had a bigger thing, I would use like a chainsaw or bypass pruners or loppers. Anyway, love this. My favorite brand though is Silky for those. Silky. Okay, another thing for gardening is a small rake, because you can get in beds really easy without disturbing a lot of things and without catching a lot of things. This might just be for smoothing out some bark or smoothing out some gravel or getting rid of leaves, whatever it might be. I like a small little rake. And it's also long, so I don't have to bend over. Okay, the other thing is that I haven't used a leaf blower other than like this past year, and I absolutely love it. This one's a battery powered one, so it's actually really quiet and it's actually really light. It's for small jobs. It lasts probably like 30 minutes if you're using it constantly, and then you've got to change out the battery. But really like this. It has a whole bunch of levels, so you can blow away gravel. So you don't blow away gravel, but you can blow away the leaves on top of it.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever sweep again.
Yeah.
It's also like cleaning your sidewalks, your driveway. I mean, the cobwebs off your house. I honestly use it for everything now.
Yeah, totally. I also love the battery powered hedge trimmer. It is amazing. Not only is it sharp right now, because it's fairly new, it also is fantastic for any of our hedges. Again, really light and it doesn't smell because it doesn't have the fuel, and it doesn't have an extension cord, and it's
really powerful.
Very powerful, and also really easy I love it for lavender, for shearing off lavender. It makes it really fast and really just neat and tidy. Anything else really that you can think of that you just need to shear off. Then the other things are mulch, and we can go to the backyard for this just so it's slightly quieter.
Right.
But in a garden, I believe you have to have mulch, and there are certain areas that we don't have mulch. And
we also have different mulches for different, like right here, if you look right here,
exactly.
There's bark mulch here, right here, and then where she's walking is a different kind of sand and gravel.
So we have decomposed granite, which can be used, it's mostly used as a pathway material. It can be used as a mulch. Chat is similar. It's a slightly larger aggregate. And then that's bark over there, and we have some, pretty little stones, kind of a little bit larger than pea gravel. But those are some pretty. So you've got organic mulch or inorganic mulch. And back here we have also used compost for
Now,
mulch.
why do you call it inorganic?
Inorganic because it's just a decomposed, like it's a smaller rock material.
But it's still organic. It's not made of like tires or like rubber or something, right?
I don't know. Actually, never thought about it that way. Inorganic versus organic. I think because it's organic matter has oxygen, is usually living of some sort, or was living at some point.
Cool.
Or it has hydrogen, or I mean, it could be anything like that. Organic could be, I'm referring to it as more of like an organism rather than.
Right.
But obviously bark is dead. It is not living trees anymore. But it serves to feed the microorganisms that are in the soil.
And change soil composition.
Yeah, and bind with your clay and your sand and your humic acids, and create a stronger, better soil.
So for instance, right here, our native soil, if you want to grab our native soil and show, like, it's completely sand and clay.
I can't.
Yeah,
not with my hand.
Yeah, it's harder to get it without the knife. But
so it's pretty compacted because
it gets watered every day.
Yeah, but it's pretty compacted.
But it doesn't have very good structure. So we are adding the bark mulch, which is right next to it. Just needs to be, worked into it a little bit, or a lot more needs to be put on top. And that's, like here, and that's what we're trying to work into it to change the composition of this native soil, right?
Yeah, there's soil texture and soil structure, and if I don't get this mixed up, I believe soil texture is what you can change and soil structure. Nope, other way around. Soil structure you can change because that's how the sand, silt, and clay are combined with organic matter, decomposing organic matter, and humus and all of that. That's how it binds and creates drainage, air pockets,
Places for
spaces
microbes.
for water, places for microbes, and soil texture is the percentages of sand, silt, and clay. So every soil has some percentage of sand, silt, and clay, and ours, we know from experience. We've never actually got it tested to see, but I've done like some fun little at-home soil experiments to see percentages. Ours is mostly clay and sand, a lot more clay than sand, and then we have a little bit of silt. So it's, you can actually look that up. You can look up, there's a few tutorials on doing an at-home soil test if you're working with your native soil. And it's pretty simple, it's pretty easy. I think it's like a jar and water and like dish soap, and then you let it set for a couple days.
It's
and
pretty
see
cool.
how the materials sink or rise,
And you get
because they all
layers.
have different sizes. Like clay is a super small aggregate, whereas sand is much larger of an aggregate. I'm sure there's examples out there where like sand is this much larger than clay. It's like football field's larger if it was, you know, blah blah blah. But basically we work on soil texture all the time, I believe, or soil structure. I'd have to like really concentrate to remember each one of those, but
like the only way
yeah,
we
you
can
can
change
change
our
it.
the only way we can change our percentages is if we add so much. Oh,
Hello.
If the only way we can change our soil texture is if we added so much of that, like bark mulch and humus and grass clippings and maybe straw. We're still not going to change the fact that there is silt, that there is clay, that there is sand. Like that stuff, we're not taking soil away. At least at this point we're not. And so we're just trying to add in that organic matter that adds a little bit more loam, a little bit more air in it, because right now it gets so compacted that then our root systems aren't as strong because they're working so much harder to work through that really tightly compacted soil. Because the other thing about sand, silt, and clay is it actually geometrically like locks together, whereas organic matter is more like slivers and, you know, and layers. And so it really is important. It's probably the most important thing before flowers, before fertilizer, before anything, is your soil content and how your soil functions, right?
Yeah,
It really is. And so if you know that you have poor soil, before you like get really invested in planting a giant garden or even just a small flower bed, you know, we go to people's houses pretty regularly, and we're just like, it's just really hard to work with bad soil because people really want their plants to thrive, and they've spent all this money and they have really poor soil. And especially in our region, because it's just the way it is. Especially down here, it's a riverbed, but you go up onto our benches and it's just clay. And so the number one thing, if you can be patient and spend a season just working on getting your soil into a better condition, you're going to be way better off once you start planting things than if you're just like, hey, I'm just impatient, everything's on sale, I just want to plant stuff. And then, you know, a couple years down the road, you're just disappointed because you can't get the kind of production, the kind of prolific flowering that you really want, because the plants are working too hard. And then you do have to end up using inorganic fertilizers, which then, yes, it makes your plant really awesome for that season, but it doesn't add anything to your soil. It releases much faster than organic fertilizers. And so just your soil is so important. Your tools and your soil are probably the most important things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have anything else to add?
And gardening friends. You need gardening friends.
Yes, you know, like really, like if you can inspire a couple of people, you can weed together. I know I got my mask on. We're in a pandemic situation, but you can do it from a distance. Like gardening friends are so awesome. Like just because you can say, hey, this is happening to me. Is this happening to you? You want to share? Do you want to? Right now, we're like dividing plants and sharing with each other. And it's just so important to have comrades in your, gardening experience. I love it. So
Yeah, awesome.
thank
Thanks,
you so
guys.
much. Have a wonderful day from BY's Gardens.